Hi, it's Ileana. So today we're going to look at my experiment with doing astrophotography in a little town called White Rock, South Surrey area, Ocean Park. I went to parks, I went to beaches, I went to people's houses, I shot in my own backyard, I visited a bunch of hills. I was everywhere trying to look at a hypothesis, an experiment. The experiment was, can you do astrophotography with a telescope, with a camera attached to it? And it's a photo camera that it's for stars. It's for photographing stars, the moon, stuff like that. But the hypothesis was, can you photograph any anomalous objects? What do I mean by anomalous objects? Orbs, UFOs, lights, blinking, hovering, anything that hovers, blinks, anything that is seen in the night sky or during the day. Can you photograph it? And how far can you photograph it with a telescope that can zoom in and track items, that has a telescopic camera attached to it? It's on a rig, it sits on a mounted rig and moves. It comes with a portable power charging station, so you plug in all your cables, all your USB stuff, your laptop, because you have to have a laptop for looking at the images and tracking what you're doing. Some of these were during the day shots. Some of them were at night. Some of them were transitions between day and night. You also have filters, like actual filter discs that you put in on the telescope mount to make sure that there's enough light coming in to take your photos and enough light is filtered out so everything is seamless and blends well and works properly with the telescopic lens attached to the telescope. You have to bring adapter cables, you have to bring adapters, you have to bring certain ring sets, because if you're changing lenses, because you have deep sky lens, photo lens that shoots nebulas, that shoots galaxies, that shoots things in the far off distance. Then you have lenses that shoot, camera lenses that shoot, and a camera with a lens that shoots local things in the sky, like the sun, the moon, craft, anything blinking, anything in your local area of the vicinity of the sky that doesn't need coordinates with a star tracker. If you're going to be doing photographs of nebulas, galaxies, you'll need a star tracker because you need to put in coordinates of your nebulas, your galaxies, for the telescope to go out there and find it in the solar system or in a different galaxy, even to track the range. Locality, all you need to know for local shooting, just your moon, your sun, just your night sky. You need a clear night out for good visibility. If you want to photograph the full moon, you need to know when the full moon will be, the quarter moon, the half moon, the wolf moon. There's all kinds of phases of the moon, so you just want to get your almanac for that. Same for the sun phases. So if you just need a clear night out, no fog, no cloud cover, just clear night or a clear day to shoot astrophotography. If you're just doing local things in the sky, get your telescope, you get your telephoto camera with its lens, and it's a special mount lens for the telescope. It's not your DSLR camera that you hook up to the telescope, which you could also do. That's a whole other setup rig. Most people just get a good night sky star telescopic camera lens that attaches to the telescope for photographing the night sky in your local vicinity, or for the deep sky camera telephotic lens, telephoto lens, not telephotic, telephoto lens, and you attach it to the telescope. So there's variations of you could do. You can even shoot good pictures of astrophotography, the stars, the night sky, nebulous with a DSLR, as long as you have a good long-range lens to do it with that attaches to the DSLR camera, and you have proper filters, you can do it that way too. I wanted to track things in the sky that were hovering, that were moving, blinking, that were doing things, moving around. So I wanted to track the moon, and I wanted to track anything else local in the sky. That's why I borrowed an astrophotography kit rig from a friend, and it's very expensive. That rigging can get up to 7,000 CAD or USD, depending how far you go. This was a Schmidt-Kazarian telescope that was close to $5,000 on its own, plus the telescopic camera with its lens, the filters, the rig system, the mount, the rig where your telescope goes on. That one is also very, like, it moves. It can be stationary or you can move it depending on what you need to track in the sky. And I was tracking basic things like the sun, the moon, or any moving objects or anything that was blinking, hovering, because I was looking for anomalous objects in the sky. I was looking for UFOs, or what we term UAPs, UFOs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, the good old-fashioned word for it. I was just looking to see if there's anything in this little area of White Rock, Ocean Park, Crescent Beach, White Rock Beach, South Surrey area, parks, beaches, anything that could show us something, maybe UFOs, orbs, plus wanting good pictures of the moon and the sun. So those were my criteria, anomalous objects. I wanted to see how many I could capture throughout a week of a time span for a week, 7 days. So here we go. These are the image results. And for more information about what kind of telescope you need, what kind of lenses, I'm going to do a book about that. It's very technical. I sort of went over that right now a little bit. And when you're out, you do need, when you're out in nature, natural environment, you need to bring a portable power station to plug in your telescope, to plug in your equipment, to shoot all this stuff outside. When you're at home, you can just plug it into the outlet from your house, but when you're out in the field, you need a portable power station to power all this stuff up. Buy one that has a lot of plug-ins, because you're going to have cables, you're going to have USBs, you're going to have hookups. You need an SUV or a truck, honestly, a good-sized SUV or a truck to carry all this equipment. You need thermal underwear and thermal clothing if you're out at night when it's cold, because you're going to be out for a couple of hours trying to find something, to track something. You're going to get a good chair, bring a little table with tea, a thermos, some food in a little container that's warm, a warmable container that warms your food. Because you could be out there for a couple of hours every night or every day, depending what you're trying to photograph. I wasn't doing video. I was doing purely photography, astrophotography. So this was the first picture. This was like, I don't know, the zenith of the day, close to middle, end of the day, like orange sky in a park setting with trees, warm day. And this is the sun setting. You can see some reflection off the sun. Interesting. I just wanted to see what this telescope could do during the day. So Schmidt-Casserington/Casserington telescope, Celestron, there's different types of versions of it out there. And this is a dual telescope that can do short range and long range astrophotography. So it could do deep sky, which is nebulas, stars, galaxies, or it could do just sky like this during the day and night. And this is another sun photo situation, and it's got, I think these are orbs, so many little orbs. It's not a reflection off the camera because the telescope is focused. It's focused on the sun, but there's some little orb stuff going on there. It's not the reflection of the light. The first one was, there was kind of a sun reflection, but this isn't. So there's some little things going on with orbs potentially here. Sun is setting here, more orb stuff happening. There's some houses down there. This is in a field. It's by the water. It's by a lake, actually, where people do kayaking and stuff like that. There's private docks there. There's also a public walkway and a little bridge where people do fishing. So I just inconspicuously parked the telescope with all the equipment there and was, doing my thing, photographing the sun. And these, whatever these orb things are, floating above, hovering. The zoom quality on a Schmidt-Casserington telescope is pretty good. You just have to do it very slowly, and you just adjust the degrees of how much zoomage you want. And again, I'm not a pro, I'm a beginner. It's the first time I ever had this telescope with all of this equipment. I used to do photography a long time ago as a profession, but I was doing portraits and I was not doing astrophotography per se. In that line of work way back when, my friend loaned me the telescope, gave me all the instructions what to do with it, and loaned me his time as well with the SUV and lugging me around with the equipment to photograph parks, hills, beaches, ocean, setting up appointments in people's homes to photograph ocean stuff. So being on bridges as well, hills, it was interesting. It was an interesting week. Anyway, so my first experiments were with the sun. This is the result of it. You can see a little orb action here again, orbs around the sun, beautiful orange sky, lovely day, warm woods, and then another, and that was portrait. Now this is landscape. This is in landscape mode. You have setting sun with more orbs around it. Again, setting sun, you have some clouds. You have reflections of little orbs around. And then we go into the night setting. This is now in portrait again. This is at night in wooded park area. And you can see the full moon. I did track the phases of the moon to make sure I was getting a full moon. And there's some stars and there's some kind of a line going through. I'm not quite sure what that is. It could be a Starlink satellite train going through. It could be a cigar-shaped UFO. One of those, either or it could be a shooting star. See, the telescope takes a picture, but the interpretation is still up for interpretation, what's in the image. So it could be a number of things because Starlink's chain of satellites, they can look like that when you take a photograph, although I didn't see a Starlink satellite when I was taking this. But I wasn't really looking for it, so it could have been there in the background. I was just focusing on the moonshot, and that was in there in the background. I didn't really even notice it until I looked at the pictures, honestly, because I wasn't focusing on it. But the telescope is good enough to have zoom quality to have picked that up. And these are raw images. I did nothing to them in post-processing. This is how the telescope photographed it with the telescopic camera and lens attached to it, focused in, and this is what the images are. They're raw. This is how it is. And you can upscale images in a program called Topaz Labs for 4K quality resolution. So this is another, I didn't do that. So these are raw images as is from my astrophotography experiment. This is the moon. Those could be stars or planets in the background or other things. I'm not sure. I wasn't looking for planetary alignments of what planet or star is out in the sky. I was mostly doing images of the moon outside just to get to know the telescope and the equipment, how it works, like basics, to start from basics. And I did not do deep sky photography of nebulas or galaxies. That takes more precision to learn how to track that and do that. So I didn't. I just did local sky stuff. And again, this is the moon, and that could be an orb, or that could be a star, or that could be a planet. I am not sure. To the right of the moon, it was stationary, it wasn't moving, so probably a planet or a star. So again, we have moon, that's the moon, and again, park setting. Yeah, so that's that. Another moon image here. That object in the far left, it's not really yellow or bright white, it was grayish. So that could have been either an orb, maybe some kind of a sphere, UFO, something, I'm not quite sure. But let's go back here, because you see the stars or planets, they're more whitish, they're smaller. Again, that could have been a planet, I suppose, or it could have been a UFO. That speck, it's a little bigger. It's all open to interpretation, honestly, what it could be. But that's another good moon picture. That's another moon. Yeah, this one is, and the telescope photographs the moon at its different stages. It could be more yellow, more gray, more white. Depends on what time you also come out to photograph, to do astrophotography. Nighttime, daytime, transitioning between day and night. You'll have different colors of the moon based on whenever you come out to do the photography. That's another moon picture. At night, different places. I chose a variety of places to photograph: in parks, in forests, beaches, oceanfront, bridges, you name it, I tried it. Hills, I even tried hills. Now this was interesting. This was close to a hilltop off the beach, like hilly area. You don't want to drive, you don't want to learn how to drive in this area. It is going uphill. It's a rite of passage. Nobody practices driving here to learn how to drive because it can stall your car. But this is another night, clear night, where the moon was out. And these aren't stars and these are not planets. There's maybe orbs or something floating at night. Again, we are in the Pacific Ocean here, just to preface where this location is. We have vortexes here, we have portals here, we have a lot of UFO sightings, orb sightings here. We have different stuff happening here. these could have been orbs, but they're not stars, they're not planets. Well, maybe one of them is, but the other two aren't. It was clear night, hardly anything out except the moon and maybe one planet. So I think the other two, one could be a star or a planet that's more orange. The two yellow ones, they were orbs, I think. That's what that was. And you can capture some activity, some phenomenon with the telescope. This is another moon picture. Yeah, so that's another moon picture. And in the night sky and something above it. Could be just reflection stuff from the telescope. Sometimes the telescope can refract and photograph the moon twice. That can happen if you don't set up your equipment correctly. I don't think that's what's happening there, but that can happen too. It happened to me. I didn't include this picture here, but it did happen. I have a reflection of two moons. That's if you don't set up your telescope and the camera lens correctly, it'll make a shadow ghost image. I didn't include it, but it can happen. So this is another moon photo with orbs flying around. I think those are orbs. So these were moving, and the telescope photographed it because it was zoomed in correctly. Yeah, so that was interesting. This is another moon photo. There's some cloud cover starting to happen here, and that could be a planet with stars. I think that is a planet and stars around it. And the moon, so that's just a little fog coming, well, not fog, cloud cover coming in, that's clouds. But when you have fog coming in, it's going to be more whitish gray, and it just obscures the picture completely. That's just clouds and trees. At the bottom, this is a classic moon photograph of the moon, white gray moon, fully out, full moon. Again, the moon can photograph as gray-white, gray, or yellow, depending on the phase when it's out. And sometimes you'll even get some halo around the moon, depending on what time of night and moon phase you're out photographing. So I had some haloing over the moon. I had some more clear moon pictures. I like the moon, so there's a lot of moon photos in here. It's the first time I'm photographing the moon clearly without any issues in the pictures. Like, it's clear. The telescope works. It does clear pictures that are pretty decent, I think. And those can be upscaled again in Photoshop or Topaz Labs 4K rendering. Topaz Labs does 4K rendering. Here's the moon. There's some red object blinking over there. That could be from an airplane. That could be from a UFO. Again, arbitrary what the telescope is photographing with the telescopic camera. Here we go. We see this here again, the moon in a different phase. And then we have this red blinking something. Could be a UFO, could be from a drone, from a sensor flying in the sky, because there's weather sensor equipment. It could be anything, really. I wasn't zooming in on that particular item. I was just doing the moon, but the telescope did photograph it along with the trees. And you can set up your telescopic equipment to center on what you want it to center on. This is again the moon, but there's something interesting, a golden speck of something in there. It could be of a UFO phasing in into our reality, phasing out. It could be something else. It could be phenomenon of some kind. I'm not sure. So this was an interesting moon photo, photographed with some kind of a energy line going through it. Not sure what it is, but it's interesting. And that line is going in again. It went through like it's some kind of a phenomenon. I think I'm not anyone who does astronomy. I'm not into anything of what I can explain to you what this is, why it was photographed like that. It was on a clear night. The moon was full. It was bright, and there was this line going through. It could be a craft phasing in from hyperspace. I can theorize. I think maybe energy from some kind of a craft or something. That could be it. Like, you know, these lines, energy lines from a craft phasing in. There's cloud cover here. Again, I'm no expert. And this, some kind of an object hovering. Looks like a triangle, golden shaped something, maybe a light ship. Phasing in into our existence, coming for a visit. Again, when you're photographing things with a telescope and telescopic camera and lens, it takes the pictures, but you have to, at the end of the day, you still have to interpret what the images are. It's not like, I don't think it's going to just take a perfect shot of a UFO. It potentially could, but it's very sensitive to what you focus it on. I was focusing all the imagery on the sun and the moon, and whatever I was lucky to be in the foreground and the background, it would photograph. But you have to be zooming in and tracking what's in the sky to photograph it at closer. You have to know object ratio in the sky to zoom in the telescope on that. So whatever this thing was, the telescope was tracking it and it did photograph it. I don't think that's a star. Probably a UFO of some sort, or a light ship potentially. Again, all of this is open to interpretation, to what you're seeing. And then something was interesting happening with the moon phase. It photographed that as the moon was shifting its phases, because the moon happens in cycles. That's another moon image. And you can see the stars. This is astrophotography at its best. You can see the stars. You can see the moon. You can see whatever you're zooming in on. And this is, again, the moon. Maybe a planet, maybe an orb. Not sure. And the trees. But I got a good picture of it. This is another moon picture at a different phase. And these were taken throughout different days and stages of night and day. Night transitioning to day, day transitioning to night sometimes, whenever I was lucky. That's another park scene with the moon. Another moon picture with a halo, crescent moon. I think that's what that's called. Another moon picture at a different time. I was just doing a lot of landscapes, waterscapes. I'll show some water stuff as well at different times, just to see what this telescope can do. And this was beautiful. This was at the beach. Clearly the moon is a vessel. I think that's an orb, maybe, or beginnings of the sun in the morning. So probably an orb, more so an orb than the sun. But sometimes you photograph the moon and the sun together when the sun's coming out and the moon is kind of going away. Sometimes you photograph both. I don't think that's what that was. I think that's an orb of some sort, or some kind of energetic anomaly at the ocean. I don't think that was, well, yeah, I don't think that's the sun. But sometimes you do end up photographing the sun and the moon together. That can happen depending when you're photographing. This is at night. So another beautiful ocean image with a craft, ocean craft. Me experimenting, and I think that was an orb in the first image, wasn't the sun. The sun would have been more faded out. not like that orange. And it's not a double blimp from the moon of a shadow image of what I mentioned before now, because it's too small. It would have been close to the same size if it had been, so it's something different. This, I don't know, it's kind of was interesting. Something of a triangular shape. It photographs something of a triangular shape to the left. I know to the right that's a star or a planet. To the left it looked more triangular. I don't know what was flying above the trees. Something was. The telescope photographed it, but again, I wasn't zooming in too close on that. So this is another moon, a more zoomed in image of the moon. Telescope can zoom in even closer than that. I was just playing around with the settings to see how far it could go. Now this is what I'm talking about that lens ghost thing that sometimes can happen, where it gets a shadow photo of the moon somewhat. This is that. It gets a reflection when you're zooming in the lens, depending on what you're zooming in on the telescope and the lens. It can get that kind of ghost image, and I have a picture that's even more ghosty than this, but it's just, I thought it was cool and I included it in. Sometimes these things can happen, and it's a nice picture. It's interesting. It's the result of the lens. When you're switching, when you're zooming in or out with the lens, or you're just putting it in some weird photo mode, this can happen, and that's okay. It's an interesting photo, so I included it. Now that's another moon picture of stuff in the background that could be stars, that could maybe be a UFO, who knows. Top in the middle, upper section. Again, the telescope focuses on stuff, and the telescopic camera and lens take a picture on whatever you're focused on and what's in the near locality close to you. This is the moon. There's some kind of a blue something that was moving to the left, and that's in a few pictures. I noticed. Could be an orb, could be a craft, could be something. This one was weird. I don't know what that thing is that's launching or going somewhere. Like, as it's just, we do get craft, like we often get descriptions of orange fireballs or triangular craft in White Rock area, South Surrey. Might be something like that. Again, it's arbitrary because the telescope focuses on something. The telescopic camera with the lens takes the picture of it. So it took a picture of the trees, the moon, and whatever that thing was that was flying, orangey, triangular. Could be a UFO, could be something else. I don't know, honestly. But it's there. It's picking up anomalous things. It is photographing things that could be UFOs, UAPs. It could be orbs. It could be other things that are out in the sky. Weather stuff, tech that we might not know about. Hard to say, but it photographed it, whatever that was. It did, in a much clearer image than what my DSLR camera likely could photograph, because it's with a telescope. Another moon shot. You can see I'm into my moon photos quite a bit. This was going from transitioning day to night. Half moon. This is the hill thing. Up the hill. Yeah, so I'm going to just go back a little bit because that was up the hill. This was not on a hill. This is in a park setting. More full moon. You can see it's and sometimes it will photograph with a halo, depending how bright it is on that night. So it's very interesting. Yeah, more moon photos. That's more like the white moon. Depending on when the time of night you catch it at, that's more of a halo moon. And the sky can look different. Sometimes it could be more overcast, so you'll get photos like this, where it's cloudy and overcast, starting to get kind of cloudy. So you'll get images like this. Oops, I'm going a little far out there. I'm going to return to this and go slower. Yeah, so that's where you can, it almost like sometimes you're lucky if you can get a picture on moon eclipse. That's what that would look like. One of moon eclipse pictures. This is from other times that my friend photographed the moon. He gave me this picture to include. That's almost like an eclipse. That was interesting. I just included it because it was fun. This is more during day, morning, night transitioning, what the sky can look like, and you can photograph it with a telescope. This is at night. This is fun. Off close to a rooftop. This is interesting. Another rooftop image. I just wanted to see how the telescope would perform if you're angling upwards, and other things are included. It will photograph things with buildings in there as well, because you're using a telescopic camera with a lens, so it'll photograph the sky and whatever you point it at as well. So this is nightscape, cityscape that you're seeing. So partially the moon and some other stuff in there, some stars. Not too bad. Another moonscape picture with something red. That could be a nebula, a star, something way off deep in space. But we're seeing a reflection of it, or it could be a craft. Hard to say, but interesting. Again, this is the moon with perhaps a little reflection off of it, or it could have been an orb, either or. This was weird. Definitely the moon with some kind of an orange object hovering, moving around. It's photographed. Could be a UFO. Could be something else. Again, it's arbitrary, but it's interesting just to see what's here. More moon imagery. Again, the moon with, could be a planet, a star, something photographed. This, I'm not sure what that is. It's, again, this was a moon, but something was going, it was going parallel. Something was orangey, yellow, some kind of a, looked like a cigar thing. I'm not sure what that was. It wasn't an airplane, because airplanes go straight. This was going at a weird angle. It photographed it. It was interesting. That's the after result of that. When that thing was gone, this light V thing appeared. It got photographed. And then there was a blue something orb, or I don't know, some kind of craft. Something appeared, and that was photographed. No longer where the moon was. Slightly different angle here, but that's what it was. Back to the moon again. So this is, the moon is almost gone from the sky. I don't know what that was. It was some kind of a, could be a shooting star, could be a craft, could be something. Again, if you're not zooming in 100% on that, it's hard to see what exactly it is. It's something. Here it is again, different area, I think. There it is again. There's the moon. That's another night, and this blue thing hovering, whatever that was, not sure. But sometimes anomalous objects do appear in moon photographs. Like here's something again, zipping in the sky. Here's clear moon with a star. Again, it's not always that these objects will be photographed, but sometimes they are, and it's interesting to see the contrast of detail, what you're photographing and what you can get with a telescope rig set up like this. And this is just another moon park situation setting, trees. I like to, when I'm photographing stuff, sometimes I just want the moon, but sometimes I want the moon with the night sky plus the trees, so I set it up like that. And there's some blue thing again in there in that photo. This is just clear moon. I was wanting several different scenarios of things to be photographed, of moon, of day, night, and that's what I was photographing. And I happened to get some anomalous objects in there that were photographed. Great. That's just what happens in this area, White Rock, South Surrey. More moon pictures. And this was interesting. This is during sort of the day transitioning into sort of starting into evening. We have the moon and we have some gray circular sphere thing flying. That was flying and it got photographed. I don't know what that is. That could be a UFO, could be a sphere of some sort. Not sure, but that was there and it got photographed. So it was just transitioning between day into evening, and that's what was there. And that's a lovely halo moon. Beautiful. Not easy to photograph a halo moon of this. I was only able to get one photo like this. It's not easy to get that kind of photo. Not sure why. Again, I'm new to this telescope stuff. I'm just beginner, trying out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. That was more typical of what I would photograph. Honestly, or like this. I was trying to get more of a halo moon, but I was getting clouds with moon. And that's okay. These are good images too for a beginner to test out. I got a lot like this, mostly like with just the moon, but not so much of that first time halo that I showed. Like I was trying for more luminescent haloing, but again, it's getting more of a clear moon. And these are cool images too, like nothing against these. These are typical moon shots, what you can get with a telescope. Now this is what I call more of that halo moon, of that glow. And you have to adjust your filters on the camera, on the lens to get this. And it took a lot of fiddling to do this and this one. Some kind of object, something was in the frame with it, and I left it as is. I did zero editing to this because it was fine the way it is. Here's that haloing again that I was after. I did get this one. This thing, I don't know what happened here. Some kind of a something in the picture with the moon, some kind of a glowing triangle or something. I'm not sure what that is. I don't think it's an airplane. Could have been something UFO-ish. I don't know. I wasn't trying to photograph that. I was trying to photograph the moon, and that thing got in there. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'll just call it an anomalous object. Whatever it is. I don't know. And then I was doing more photographing of the moon at night in the park stuff. Here this thing is, again, it photographed, that could be an orb or it could be a UFO, something circular transitioning between day and night in a park setting. Clearly we can see the yellow moon. But that thing above it, I don't know what that is. It was hovering and flying and it got photographed. Could be an orb, could be a sphere of a UFO of some sort, not sure. Here we have a half moon shadow phase. Interesting that it got photographed that way. Full moon. Something again on a night with a full moon. Something was zipping off in the sky, leaving a light trail. I don't know what it is. I honestly don't, but it was there. Things like that get captured from time to time in these photos, and you're just sitting out there photographing and looking into the telescope, and you're trying your best not to jig the rig, not to move it too much, unless you want to switch to a different subject in the sky. For me, it was mostly moon and sun, and some trees. And there's something again in these moon photos, something zipping in the sky, orangey, yellowish, that emits a glow, and it does move, and it photographed it because it's a steady rig and it was mounted. It wasn't moving. It's also weighted. The rigging, the mount rigging is weighted because the telescope is big. So you have to also think about your weights, and this is another weird moon photo. You have to sometimes, like if you have a large telescope that is heavy, you have to put counterweights, disc weights on your mounting rig so your telescope doesn't go wonky. You do not want $5,000 worth of telescope equipment plus like another $1,000 something or 2,000 telescopic camera lens going off the rails off your mount. You don't want that to happen because that's damaged equipment. It's not cheap to repair. So that's why it's weighted with specific discs, weights at the end of the mount on the handle, so your equipment is properly balanced. So this is another moon image, 2 moon images, something blue hovering in the sky. This one, the second one, was a yellow hovering something in the sky with the moon in the park. So again, you can capture these anomalous activities once in a while if you're lucky. The telescope will photograph it. Whatever's there in the night sky, it will photograph. If your camera lens and the telescope is properly calibrated, it will catch it on camera, and it did. And depending how much you zoomed in, it'll show that much detail or less. This is the moon sort of phasing out of the sky. This is a full moon in the sky. This is another full moon with something orange in the sky. That was photographed. This is kind of too much light is in this scene. This might be a little oversaturated. Again, I'm new to this. I'm new to astrophotography. So I'm not a pro. I'm just a beginner. This looks oversaturated to me. That's okay. I left the images as is. I changed nothing because I honestly wanted to show what this experiment looked like from start to finish of these images. And again, there's something, a little blip of something in this photo. Might just be a warped star or something, or it could be something, an object moving, but it's weird. It got photographed in a weird way. I don't know what that is, but here's another moon picture, and there's something moving, some kind of, could be a sphere or an orb. And then it's in the second picture again. Oh, it's a little brighter here. Slightly different angle because trees are angled differently. But here it is moving again. It's like it was moving here and it was moving there. Just slightly different angles of pictures photographed. There's anomalous things here where I live. Orbs. We have orb spheres. We have sphere craft. We have all kinds of triangular craft. So that was photographed again. Interesting things. This is more of a moonscape. That's more just water with the moon and a vessel on the ocean. Interesting. We have several different types of vessels. More moon photos. This was out on the ocean actually. At the beach, and something was moving in, something orangey. I don't know, tic-tac, maybe circular object was moving. Wasn't here, but was here in this image. I don't know what it is, honestly. There wasn't any airplanes, there wasn't any satellites, and the stars are white. You can see the stars are white. Like, you can see the faint stars. So I'm not sure what that object is, but it was moving. And it was photographed, so another anomaly. Here's more moon pictures. These are normal moon scenes by the beach. Interesting. This is at the beach. Something of an orange circle on the left might be of interest. Not sure what it is. There's a vessel, there's the moon. This is further later at night, also at the beach. And it photographs nightscapes pretty well, and you can also photograph, a telescope can photograph even landscapes, stuff like that. The preference is more towards the sky, but you know, it'll photograph scenes as well, depending on what your telescopic camera and lens is. Like it could do night scenes. This is a rail, like where I live, going from White Rock Beach to Crescent Beach, we have two railroads going through the beach here. And we have our little seaside town with the jetty and stuff. So this is the nightscape of the little town where we go to the beach. You can see the moon, yeah. Now this, I don't know what was going on in this picture. You could see the train moving because we have trains at night going and they are loud. I'm used to it, but you can see there's like an orb thing here. I don't know what's in the middle. Something's flying here, and there's something here. That's not the moon. I don't know what that was, but it was flying there. I don't know what it was. This was the moon. That's the moon in this first image. That's the moon. That I'm not sure what that is. Could be shadows of the moon is crossing. I don't know. Or it could have been something flying, but the little object in the middle, that's definitely not the moon. It is an orb or something, or a sphere, and that at the top, it could have been just the moon shadow, or it could have been something else. I'm not sure. I wasn't paying attention. I was looking more at the train, so the two objects, that to the left could be portion of the moon going, you know, how the moon changes phases. The camera could have photographed that, or it could have been something else. I honestly don't remember. But the thing in the middle, that I don't know what that is. Looks like a sphere or an orb or something hovering. It's not the moon. This is the moon. Definitely, yes. With a bit of a haloing thing going on around it. That is the moon. It's a night train scene, same town, White Rock, South Surrey area. That is the moon as well. Another train scene. I tried to photograph as many things as I possibly could for experimentation, to see the capabilities of the telescope, the camera. So some train scenes here. It can photograph trains too in the night sky. Whatever you set as its focal points, that's what it will focus on and photograph. Another moonscape, waterscape, landscape, everything combined. I wanted to photograph some night trains with some night activity with trains at night. And yes, there's safe points where you can stand where you're not, the train is not going to hit you because you're not standing at the train track. That's why you're using a telescope. So you're further away, yet you could photograph this. But you're not standing on the train tracks. It might look like that, but you're not. And this is just beautiful scenery of the town. We have palm trees. We do have palm trees here. This is not in California. This is in British Columbia, Canada. Palm trees can survive here. It's a little overcast, but it's still decent where you could photograph the nightlife going on at the beach, the nightscape. There's houses here, there's hills here. It's quite beautiful, especially in the summer. Crescent Beach, White Rock Beach, the promenades, very beautiful in the summer here. So this is just, it was a really warm night. It's not summer here, but it was really warm, a couple of days. And I was lucky enough to be out there to photograph some of this beautiful stuff. during the evening when it was clear. It was kind of warm. It was nice. And I photographed some of this, and I did a range of things. Again, my test was looking for aerial unidentifiable phenomenon, something that is not easy to identify. And I have pictures like that mixed in here. But I also have the moon, the stars, the sun. I have orbs, potential UFOs. I have ocean. I have ocean vessels. I have everything that I could think of to try to do within a week of photographing. I wasn't looking to do video. I was only looking to do astrophotography. That's what this experiment was. And it did capture some interesting phenomenon that I can't really explain. And could be UFOs, could be orbs, could be spheres, could be other things that exist out there in this beautiful world beyond 3D that this astrophotography rig photographed a couple of times throughout the week. So it was a beautiful experiment. So I think we can say that their photographs can be taken of UFO stuff and orb stuff through astrophotography with a telescope mounted on a rig with a telephoto camera lens attached to the telescope. It can be done, it has been done, and it can be done during the day, during the evening, transitioning between day into night, morning into evening, day. As long as you set up your settings correctly, you can try these experiments and see what you can photograph. There's also 4K video recorders, video cameras that can record stuff similar to this. They're in the thousands as well in the range. It's not cheap. This equipment is not cheap. It was loaned to me. I had help transporting it, loading it, unloading it. It is heavy, but it is worthwhile getting if you want to get into astrophotography, and if that's something that you're passionate about. It does work. It does beautiful photos, and I like the results of what I have. I'm happy with it, and I just wanted to share that. Thank you so much.